Welcome to GrowMe. This is the channel and the home for a collective of garden warriors who are intent on attaining food security, sovereignty for themselves, their families, their communities, and the world. I'm Lobsterbird, and today I am talking about biorhythms. This is my most frequently asked question lately these days, so I'm excited to talk to you about it. And here's what I want to ask you. Have you ever felt overwhelmed, exhausted? Like there were things that you had to do but you didn't want to do them? Like tasks that you just were dragging yourself to? Have you ever experienced any of these? Am I alone? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If you've ever experienced any of these things, I have a solution for you. It's called a biorhythm. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what a biorhythm is, what a biorhythm is not, and how biorhythms relate to both gardening, growing food, and productivity in general. Ready to get aligned with your biorhythms? Then let's go into the flow of the biorhythm. So I'm first going to actually start with what a biorhythm is not. When I first started doing this research into biorhythms, I was talking to my heroes. Now my heroes are basically what I call my clients. I prefer to call them my heroes because they are, and my heroes are all people who are really doing the work that they're here on this planet to do and serving the world with their creativity and with their gifts. So I was talking to my heroes because I started doing this research a couple of years ago into biorhythms, and I started to mention it, and one of my heroes said, oh, my mom is really into biorhythms. And so since I was in the research stage at that point, I was like, oh, well, I'd love to talk to her about biorhythms. And I explained a little bit of, what I was looking at, and she was like, oh, I don't think we're talking about the same thing. So there is this thing called biorhythm work that was from the 60s or the 70s or something. I looked into it very, very minorly. You can Google it. I think it's on Wikipedia. It's not that. Whatever it was that they were doing sounds really interesting and everything, but this is not what I'm talking about in this video. So what I'm talking about is what a biorhythm is in my understanding, my research, and my practice, and my development with it, and how it can help you with all those things I mentioned before. So you can feel really vital and energized, inspired, and even if there's stuff that you don't want to do, but you have to do, there is some kind of great joy in doing them. That is what a biorhythm has to offer. So what is it? Well, we know from nature that nature has rhythms and cycles, right? So probably the most obvious to us is the seasons, right? And the calendar year. And within a year, so we have the 4 seasons, fall, spring, summer, winter. And then within each season, we have months. And so we have a lunar cycle, a month. And if you do any work with astrology or any deep earth magic, eco work, lunar cycle is an incredibly powerful cycle to attune to. And then, within that, we have smaller cycles. We have days, and then we have hours. And those are broken up into a biorhythm that I think we can all understand is sleep, right? Pretty much for a third of the day, we're sleeping, generally. And 2/3 we're not. And that's a biorhythm that we repeat every day. So to me, it's a rhythm that is natural and that can put us in sync with energies. So there's different levels to understanding biorhythms, and this is what I've been developing. And so, it really starts with nature, right? In the epic sense. There are certain cycles, like I mentioned, the seasons, the lunar cycles, day and night, which we cannot avoid, right? Those are part of life. And so our actions and everything are somewhat dictated by those cycles, although not entirely. Because beyond nature, there's our own unique biorhythms. And that's really what I'm talking about when I talk about this. Although our own unique biorhythms also relate to all of nature, because everything is interdependent. So the key to utilizing your personal energetic wavelength, right, and signature is to understand your own biorhythm. And now this is not something that's taught in school or anywhere, as far as I know. This is something that I basically got a soul download message one day, and it was like, you got to get in line with your biorhythms. Because what I was doing was, I had at that time had my own business. It was doing really well, moving right along. I was traveling a lot, and I was burning out. I was doing a lot, and I wasn't doing it in the most efficient way possible, and it was unsustainable. And that's the thing, if you've experienced the side of energy which is unpleasant, and which is waning, which is not, you're not psyched and jazzed to be doing whatever it is that you're doing, then there's probably something off within your own biorhythm. So how do we come to understand our biorhythms? Well, it's basically an energetic practice, right? So any energetic and even spiritual practice, I might say, is a practice of observation. Science, also practice of observation. So really, what I'm doing right now for you, and what you're doing for you right now in watching this video, is you are attuning to your own biorhythm. So congratulations, you are doing it. You're attuned to the fact that it exists. You're attuned to the fact that you have your own unique energetic expression, and that's amazing. This is something that we've not always done. At least I've not always done this. Let me know in the comments below. Maybe you've been attuned to your own energy in the fullest capacity all your life. I'm sure that is for some people, not for most. So if you're like me, I lived a lot of my life basically subject to the time signatures and the demands of my environment, right? So for example, school, right? I woke up based on when I had to go to school, or I did, certain things in terms of when I had to be at work, when I had a quote unquote normal job. Those things, or like the rhythms of my family, for example, like when they told me I had to get up, I got up, right? And that wasn't necessarily when my own energy wanted me to get up. Give me a shout in the comments if you ever wanted to just like bury yourself under your pillows and blankets and tell everyone to go away because you weren't ready. That was in part because we weren't taught to honor and understand our own biorhythms. Here's the best thing about it. It's a method of observation, and once you start observing it, it changes. This is Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, right? Anything that is observed changes. And so it is true with your own energy. Give me a mind-blowing emoji if you're feeling the significance of this one. So, a lot of us, when we don't have peak energy, engagement, and focus, we think that there is something wrong with us, or something has to be changed. Like maybe I have to eat better, change my diet, exercise more, sleep more, blah, 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 right? People will tell you a million things about what you have to do in order to change. Here's what I'm telling you. You don't have to do anything except observe yourself and allow it to transform through the process of observation. So here's what you do. The easiest way I can think of is to keep a biorhythm journal. And basically what you want to do is you want to track your energy. You want to track it just like if you're starting a garden and you want to keep a garden journal, because you need to know where you planted the squash versus where you planted the cucumber, because when they start to come up, they look exactly the same, right? And if you don't somehow log it, unless you have a photographic memory, you're not going to know where they are. And even if you do have a photographic memory, you're not going to know when you planted them, when you gave them fertilizer, when you watered them, all this stuff, like all the various variables you don't know. So it's best to write it down. So you want to start tracking your energy, and when you have the most energy during what times of day, right? What are the conditions that you feel led to having that kind of energy? You want to start to just understand how your own energy works. Like when I started doing this, I realized like 4 o'clock was like my nappy time. I just wanted to not do anything and nap, right? That was it for a very long time. It's no longer like that. But it was for a long time, and it was important for me to observe that and honor that. Right? So once you're starting to observe some of your natural cycles, then you want to go with them, right? You want to let yourself, like your body might be asking you to sleep 12 hours a night. And even though you don't want to, if you've observed that that's what it wants, you got to honor that and you got to do it. And it's not going to be like that forever. That's what I mean when it'll change. But by honoring what is happening in your own body and in your own feelings will allow it to transform and shift. So this is you understanding your own biorhythm. But biorhythms are pretty epic, right? Because we're all interconnected, we're all interdependent, and everything has an influence on everything else. Like the wind right now is blowing my hair into my eye, which is causing me to think about the wind blowing there into my eye, which is causing this video to be different than it was going to be if the wind was blowing that way, for example, right? Everything affects everything else, is my point. And so this is the kind of deep work that I do with my heroes, because there's us. So that's where I think the starting point is, right? Is for you to start tracking your own energy, tracking it, observing it, and allowing it and honoring it. And from there, then it gets really interesting, because then you watch your own energy transform. And as you watch your own energy transform, you become attuned to the greater energetic cycle. So some of the ones I was talking about in nature. But it starts off also with your relationships with other people, right? That has its own, like they have their own biorhythms. And so those relationships have their own biorhythm signature. And then there's the relationship with you and the environment that you're in. That environment has its own signature. And then there's that of nature. So that's the seasons, and that's the weather and all these things. And then it's epic. There's the cosmos, otherwise known as astrology. There is astrological rhythms going on that very much affect our very own existence wherever we are. So it's pretty epic, right? Just like starting your own garden and turning that into an entire self-sustaining ecological food forest, pretty epic, totally possible. So it starts by logging it. So let me know in the comments if you're going to start logging your own biorhythms, knowing that the outcome is that you are going to feel more energized, you're going to feel more connected, and you're going to witness your relationships changing, and you're going to witness yourself being in inspired, energetic flow with all of the universe. Worth it to track your own biorhythms. So that is what it is. And that is also how it relates to gardening, is that when we are attuned to this and we're watching it, and especially when we're honoring our own, it helps us to understand the biorhythms of the plants that we're caring for. They each have their own biorhythm signature, right? And so because we're tending to ours, it helps us to understand theirs. This is what makes it not hard, right? Because really it's about, we're just a fractal. You know what I'm saying? We're a fractal in this whole world. Like this one little pixel is basically reverberated throughout the entire time and space, seemingly time and space. Time and space are not real. We're just one part of that, right? So when we start to honor our own biorhythms and do that work, we find that we quite naturally begin to understand the greater biorhythms. So what seemed like such a big deal and so epic and something we could never grasp because I don't know the different signs and the houses and conjunctions and I don't go out into the woods, you know, whatever your excuse is, doesn't matter. You'll begin to attune to those biorhythms just by doing your own work with you. So this is how it relates to gardening, because it makes gardening and growing food so much easier, and that's what we want, right? And in terms of your own productivity, no matter what you're doing, whether you're gardening or whether you're running a business or whether you're raising horses or whether you're just watching Netflix, even that can be more energized and more enjoyable. Because that's the thing, is if there's tasks in your life that you don't want to do or feel draining, it's not because of the task itself. I hate to tell you. On some cases, it is a worthwhile activity and practice to delegate things that you don't want to do to people that can and love to do them and would love to do them, right? But in a lot of cases, there are just things that because you feel drained, because you aren't honoring your own biorhythm, the task itself feels hard. And then we begin to think like, oh, I just don't like to edit videos, you know, or oh, I just don't like to respond to emails or whatever. But it's not the thing itself. It's the energy behind it. And it's whether or not you're utilizing yours to its highest potential and capacity as to whether or not that task is going to be fulfilling or not. So it works both ways too. The things we don't like and also the things we enjoy become so much fuller, and they become a whole visceral, sensorial experience of joy and abundance and freedom and love, when we are tapped into our biorhythms. So let me know if this makes sense to you, if you want to hear more about this. This is the kind of deep personal work I do with my heroes, mainly through my course. It's an experiential journey really called The Hero's Way, and if you're interested in that, I will post the link in the description below. But we go deep because, you know, the starting place is observing your own, and then there are different ways, and your way is going to be unique to you, you know, so it's a commitment, and I work specifically with people to really hone in on, discover, refine, and transform what their biorhythms are, specifically in relationship to doing the work that they're here on this planet to do. So if that's interesting to you, come check out me and my heroes, come join us. And either way, you are now attuned to the notion that there is a biorhythm and that you can understand yours and that you can operate at one with the whole vast interconnected web of nature and beyond. And that, my friend, is very exciting. Let me know if you agree in the comments below, and subscribe to GrowMe, where my fellow gardener warriors have other inspirational methods and practices, etc., to help you tap into the natural flow of your energy and the energy of the world. Thanks for being here with us, and see you again very, very soon.